Okay, so today we're diving into something that's causing a real buzz in the AI world, Google's NotebookLM. You ever get that feeling of just like complete information overload?
Yeah, totally. It's like we're drowning in articles and research papers and podcasts even.
It's too much.
Yeah.
And it feels like the tools we have, to manage all this information, they kind of just add to the problem. What if you had an AI that worked with you and used your own documents as a starting point? That's kind of the idea behind NotebookLM. And we're going to figure out if it actually lives up to all the hype.
It's a very interesting idea, I think. So instead of using like a massive data set of information like most AIs do, NotebookLM basically creates a personalized knowledge base. And it only uses the Google Docs that you pick.
So it's like having a study buddy who's already prepped with the same exact material as you.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And because it's so personalized, it can do some really cool stuff. Like it can summarize documents, it can answer questions that you have about your documents, and it can even come up with new ideas, all based on the stuff that you gave it.
And can it make me a coffee?
Maybe not that, but you're right. The potential here is huge. So like, say you're a med student trying to make sense of some super complicated neuroscience article about dopamine.
Yeah, that's definitely not exactly light reading.
No, it's not. So instead of spending hours and hours making a glossary of all these terms, you could just have NotebookLM do it for you. And actually, the NotebookLM, How to Try Google's experimental AI-first notebook article that we looked at, talks about this exact thing. It's really about taking all those boring, tedious tasks off your plate so you can actually, focus on the bigger picture thinking and learning.
That's the dream. And speaking of dreams, get this. NotebookLM can turn your text into a podcast.
It's wild, right? NotebookLM, the AI tool you can't ignore, is another article we read, and it really gets into this specific feature. So you basically give it a transcript. It could be of meeting notes or a lecture or even like a draft of something you've written.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Right, but you see what I mean. And then, bam, NotebookLM turns it into an audio file.
Whoa. Okay, so that sounds super futuristic, but let's talk about some more real-world uses for this. Like, how could people actually use this?
Well, think about accessibility. For people who learn better by listening to information, it could be huge for them. Or imagine like you could just turn meeting notes into a podcast for people who missed the meeting.
Yeah, it's like having a personal assistant for creating content.
Exactly. And even just for yourself, think about how much time you'd save if you could listen to research papers during your commute instead of having to read them.
Okay, I am sold. But before I ditch all my books and reading glasses, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this thing actually work? So NotebookLM sounds pretty amazing so far. But what about accuracy? AI has kind of a, let's say, creative way of interpreting things sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one of the biggest worries people have with AI, especially when it comes to learning, is that it can hallucinate. Basically, it can create information that sounds like it makes sense, but it's actually totally made up or wrong.
And with NotebookLM working off a smaller set of data, like just your own documents, it seems like it would be even easier for it to mess up.
That makes sense. But here's where NotebookLM is different. It uses something called source grounding, which means that every single thing it spits out, whether it's a summary or an answer to a question or even a new idea, it's all linked directly back to the exact place in the text where it came from.
Oh, so you're saying there's no more blindly trusting the AI overlords. You can actually go back and check to see if it's telling the truth.
Exactly. The article NotebookLM, How to Try Google's Experimental AI-First Notebook, has a really clear explanation of how this works. It's like having footnotes, but for everything the AI gives you.
Okay, that definitely makes me feel better. I like to double check things. But does all this source grounding mean that NotebookLM is just like a parrot repeating things? Like, where does the intelligence come in?
That's a really great question. Source grounding doesn't mean that NotebookLM can't analyze things. It's actually the opposite. Because it's so connected to the stuff you gave it, it can put together information and answer questions in a way that's accurate and actually makes sense.
Okay, I get it. So give me an example. How would this work in real life?
Okay, let's say you're writing a big research paper and you have to read through a ton of articles. You could ask NotebookLM something like, what are the main arguments for and against this theory? And it wouldn't just give you like a basic summary of the arguments. It would actually tell you where each point is discussed in each study or article.
Wow. That's so much better than just getting a random summary or having to read every single thing myself.
Right. It's all about making research faster and helping you make connections that you might not have seen otherwise. This ability to pull information from different places and put it all together is where NotebookLM really shines.
It's like having a superpower research assistant who can connect all the dots.
Totally. And that's just the beginning. Let's talk about another cool feature, idea generation.
Okay, so we've talked about NotebookLM helping us make sense of all this information we're swimming in. But it sounds like it can actually do even more, like help us come up with new ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about how it can help us understand and analyze stuff, but it goes beyond that. It can actually help you generate totally new insights or come up with creative ways to approach something.
So it's like brainstorming, but on a whole other level.
Exactly. Like, let's say you're working on a project and you're feeling stuck. You could ask NotebookLM for ideas based on the documents you've already given it. Maybe you want to come up with some new arguments for a research paper or brainstorm solutions to a problem.
It's like having a second brain that's been trained on everything you know.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And the best part is that because NotebookLM is working with your own material, the ideas it generates are going to be relevant and actually useful. You're not getting random suggestions from left field. You're getting insights that come directly from your research or project.
I can see how this could be huge for people. Writers, researchers, even teachers could use this.
Absolutely. Imagine the possibilities for making learning more personalized or opening up new avenues for creativity.
It's exciting, but it also kind of makes you think, how will this change how we learn and work, and even just think in general?
It's a big question, and it's one we need to be thinking about. Because, like any powerful technology, there are always going to be implications.
For sure. And it's easy to get caught up in the excitement. But we also have to remember that NotebookLM is still pretty new. There's still a lot more work to be done before we really understand its full potential and impact.
Definitely. But I think it's safe to say that NotebookLM is a major step forward in AI. It's changing how we interact with information and what we can achieve with it.
It really seems like AI is becoming more powerful, more in tune with us and how we work. And it's becoming more integrated into our lives. It's not about replacing us, though.
Right. It's about giving us a boost.
Yeah, enhancing what we can already do and opening up new possibilities.
It's a really fascinating topic, and this is really just the beginning of the conversation.
Totally. And for everyone listening who's now as fascinated by NotebookLM as we are, keep an eye on this technology because it's definitely going to be interesting to see where it goes.
And in the meantime, if you want to learn more, check out the links we've included with this deep dive.
Yes, definitely do that. And thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of NotebookLM. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.